welcome to the March 6, 2025 school board meeting. I would ask everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Chapman is unable to make it tonight, so I will be happy to fill in. Golden Apple Awards, Dr. Lons.
Thank you very much. Turn it over to Mr. Hamka.
Good evening, everyone. Our first Golden Apple recipient is Cassandra Chapman. Cassandra Chapman is a Head Start preschool assistant at the Early Childhood Center and the Walled Lake Para Association president. She was nominated by Victoria Blake, a preschool teacher at the Early Childhood Center. Victoria shared that Cassandra is passionate in her role as an educator and goes above and beyond for students, families, and all paraprofessionals in the district. Cassandra continuously works hard to make impactful changes with a warm smile. She loves to explore new and unique ways to connect with others through district events or simply reaching out by email. Her passion for students, her program, and the overall learning community is what sets her apart. Cassandra excels at creating fun and engaging lessons for her students and is an advocate for early childhood students. She works hard during the school day and beyond to support her team and achieve professional goals. Sarah Davey, Director of Early Childhood for the district, shared that Cassandra is a dedicated and loving teacher that wants every student to succeed to their fullest potential. She strives to form relationships with families, which is an essential part of supporting the whole child. Thank you, Cassandra, for all you do for our early childhood students, families, and paraeducators district-wide. Congratulations. You're welcome to come on up. Thank you.
I'll now turn it over to Mrs. Kohansky. Mrs. Kohansky, Mr. Hamka forgot the most important part is we have to make them feel uncomfortable the entire time. So we need to get them up here first.
Our next Golden Apple recipient is Tomoko Hirakawa. Tomoko, would you come up, please? There we go. Yay. Yeah, just right here. Thank you. Yeah. Tomoko is an English language development paraprofessional at our Early Childhood Center. Tomoko goes above and beyond to communicate with families and share information about their children and the programs available to them in our district. Tomoko is always smiling and brings a positive attitude each day she is at work. Tomoko speaks Japanese, but she also helps students who speak other languages as well. She uses her knowledge of multi-language learners and supports the multi-language learner supports and applies it to all learners and languages. She trains new multi-language learner parapros on best practices, techniques, and strategies, and is always willing to help a colleague. No questions asked. Tomoko works with teachers across the program. She observes and takes ideas from each classroom she's in, and she implements approaches learned and observed in other rooms and situations with students. She's willing to try anything, and she asks for feedback from others so she can continue to grow and perfect her skills. Even though it is not required for her position, Tomoko asks to attend preschool professional development training sessions so that she can learn more about the curriculum and the resources, the department goals, the academic and social emotional growth, and age-appropriate practices. Tomoko, thank you for all you do for our youngest learners and their families. It is our honor to recognize you this evening.
Next on our agenda is public commentary. We would like to thank all individuals who have submitted a request to speak during public commentary. We ask that everybody be professional. Dr. Lons or a member of his staff will get back to you in regards to your concerns. And we will start right now with Jackie Gerwin.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to share some fantastic updates from the Foundation for Excellence because we have some incredible things going on in the next couple of weeks. First up, today we kicked off our mini grant presentations with a visit to Keith Elementary, where we gave out $1,400 to support 3 different classrooms. But we're just getting started. Over the next 2 weeks, we'll be visiting schools across the district to surprise 70 teachers with a total of over $51,000 in grants. This is truly the best part of the year and the whole reason that the foundation exists. Imagine us rolling into a classroom, Publishers Clearinghouse style, catching teachers and students completely off guard. The reactions are priceless. Sometimes it's just stunned silence, and sometimes the teachers are literally jumping on chairs. The teachers, don't worry, not the students. Keep track of our Facebook page because we will be posting pictures from these visits throughout the next couple of weeks. Now, speaking of making an impact, my friend Liam Wexstein here is helping me run one of our biggest fundraisers. We are literally sitting out in the lobby. Our 50-50 tuition expedition raffle is in full swing, giving you a chance to win scholarship funds or a lump sum while supporting the FFE. The winner gets 50% of the proceeds. Whoa, yeah. Wait, back that up. Yeah, which we can hold for 20 years until you're ready to use it. For the last 5 years, each grand prize winner has won over $10,000 in scholarship funds. So the other 50% goes to help support our mission to put more tools and resources in classrooms. So we'll be out there for a little bit longer, but it is a school night, and I do have to get my sales assistant home. And that's not all. Last week, we officially opened registration for our annual golf scramble, which will happen on June 16th at Edgewood Country Club. I'm thrilled to announce that ARC Construction agreed to be our first presenting sponsor, and we are grateful for their continued support. We hope to see many of you out at the course for a great day of fun and fundraising. One more thing to watch for. In early April, we're launching our Superstar Staff Awards. This is your chance to nominate your favorite staff member, whether it's a teacher, a custodian, a bus driver, a parapro, substitute teacher, anybody into this drawing to win one of 2 $500 prizes. They're generously sponsored by the Walled Lake Schools Federal Credit Union, and the winners will be drawn and presented during Staff Appreciation Week. It's a great way to recognize the incredible staff members who make a difference in our district every day. So yes, we've been busy, but we wouldn't have it any other way. A huge thank you to everyone who supports the Foundation for Excellence through fundraisers, sponsorships, and donations. We could not do this without you. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Castle.
Darn, I didn't want to follow that happiness with what I've got for you, but in case you don't know who I am, I'm Dakota's advocate. I'm Dakota's friend, and yes, we are talking about a dog. We're talking about Dakota over at Western. And since October, I've been coming here with various stories, various things about Dakota. When Dakota was, I used to be her handler in the building, and when she was taken from me, those of you looking for evidence, I have pretty strong evidence that she had stage B heart disease, anxiety, and arthritis at the time. Just ask me. It's right here. I'll be here all night. I'm going to shift gears slightly, but there's a point to the end, as with anything that ever happens in my class. I'm going to read from the manual that they use, the therapy dog manual, under rules for handler. Bullet point 2. All 4 on the floor. All paws need to stay on the floor unless you are carrying the dog. Toys are not allowed. but toys are allowed, but do not pull the toy while in the dog's mouth. We do not want to encourage pulling. No toys for the therapy dogs while visiting classrooms. I read that, and then I ask you why I'm holding a picture of Dakota in a classroom pulling a toy with 2 feet off the floor. Okay? That's story number 1. Story number 2 along these lines is, okay, no, actually that was story number 1 and 2 combined, okay? I got others like this. I've got videos like this. That's the other point. I've got lots of evidence. Where am I getting it? Well, you're not gonna know that. Now let's talk about why Dakota at the pink out basketball game during the varsity basketball game spent 3 quarters laying on her side by the orange cooler by the boys varsity bench where students and people had to walk over her to get to their seats. And here's one for you. I understand Walled Lake Western had a tornado drill earlier this week, like Tuesday around 8:23-ish. Why was Dakota left in the classroom behind while this tornado drill was going on? I'm curious. Why was Dakota left behind during this tornado drill? Okay? My medical thoughts have been ignored, okay? I've been quoted the manual coming back to me. You don't know what you're talking about. I got former colleagues in the
20
building
seconds.
that have tried to paint me as the abuser of Dakota. Well, guess what? You continue to
10
ignore
seconds,
this.
please wrap up.
How much?
10 seconds.
This is where she's headed. Boy attacked by aunt's therapy dog. That's your bottom line,
Please wrap
folks.
up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter Behrman.
Good evening. My name's Peter Behrman. I'm a father of 5 kids, 3 of which currently attend Wixom Elementary. I've had the pleasure of having children in this school the last 7 years. My youngest will start kindergarten there next year, and I can say that the teachers at Wixom Elementary, that's in the first 3 rows here, have been some of the best teachers we could ask for. Something's wrong at Wixom Elementary, and clearly it's been shared with administration throughout the year that there's an issue, and nothing's being done. And you're going to hear a lot tonight about what's happening now. The fact of the matter is when you allow such a toxic work environment to continue, you have teachers that are giving up on our children. And shame on everybody that's allowing that to happen. That is unbelievably disheartening. And the fact that you have 3 rows of teachers here when they're not supposed to be here at the school board meeting, and you have 3 rows of parents here, and there's still been no action from the administration to fix the issues, shame on all of you. That's all I have.
Nicole Packard.
That's a hard one to follow. Good evening. My name is Nicole Packard. I stand in front of you tonight as a parent of a current 4th grader at Wixom Elementary and 2 future Wixom Wolves in the years 2026 and 2027. However, tonight I come before the Board of Education as a very concerned, disappointed, and frustrated parent and community member. With the retirement of our previous school leader, we knew that it would bring change and maybe some minor challenges, but we put our faith in the team of Walled Lake Schools to find someone to lead and contribute positively to an already amazing, diverse, and warm community of teachers, support staff, and students at Wixom Elementary. That leader should have been someone to embrace our Wixom Wolves community and uphold the Walled Lake Schools mission. Unfortunately, that new leader came in without open arms, and in return has completely changed the dynamic of our safe, inclusive, and compassionate environment that we have all grown to trust and appreciate. There have been a multitude of disappointing and unacceptable situations and experiences shared amongst our student body families and staff. However, they are not my stories to share, but I do hope that they feel supported and have the courage to speak up if they have not done so already. Some of my biggest concerns were incidents involving the safety of our children and staff. Due to poor communication and planning, there was an incident that took place earlier in the year that led to parents fighting and involved where the police had to be called and arrived at the school in order to resolve the issue. This was preventable with proper communication by the leader. Another incident involved a lower elementary student who was released by a leader for pickup at the end of the day to the parking lot without a parent present and was later found by a group of parents wandering around the parking lot alone. The security monitors in the office have been continuously off throughout the year at the leader's direction and preference, which conflicts with safety protocols as to why they are installed there in the first place. On multiple occasions throughout the school year, my 9-year-old son has come home asking why everything feels so different at school and why is everyone so sad. That does not seem to align with the mission of every child, every day. He deserves to understand what is happening, but also should never have to feel this way. It deeply saddens me that our warm culture and welcoming community that our educators, support staff, and previous leaders worked so hard to create has been completely disrespected and disregarded. Our Wixom team deserves to
30 seconds left.
And heard during these challenging times, and these imperative matters need to be addressed. We, as of this week, have 2 teachers on medical leave of absence due to who knows what, and we have another 5th grade teacher who's going to be resigning potentially. Please help us understand what's happening at our
15
school.
seconds.
Our children deserve better, and we as a community deserve better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Cheryl Burke.
My name is Cheryl Burke, and I stand before you tonight as a deeply concerned parent at Wixom Elementary and an active member of this community. I have 2 children who attend this school. My son is in 1st grade, and my daughter is in 4th grade. The start of this school year, many parents, including myself, have raised a series of concerns about the state of our school. We are troubled by the shift in energy, the growing safety issues, the lack of communication, and the overall well-being of both students and staff. Wixom Elementary was once a place filled with excitement, kindness, consistency, and a strong sense of community. Today, that energy has been replaced with fear, sadness, disengagement, and uncertainty. As parents, this is deeply alarming. Just last week, I knew something was wrong when my 1st grader came home to me and told me, "Mom, I had 4 teachers today. One was my regular teacher, but I don't really know the others. They came and left so quickly." He also told me there wasn't even an adult who could walk their class back after lunch. I knew something was wrong when I stood at Wolf Pup Pickup last Friday and saw junior kindergartners left outside without a staff member, ensuring that they safely met their parents. I knew something was wrong when I called the school multiple times in one day and not a single call was answered. And I knew something was very wrong when just this past Tuesday, we were informed that 2 beloved teachers had taken a sudden leave of absence, one of whom I recently stood in this very room to celebrate as Wixom Elementary's Teacher of the Year, and another who had such a profound impact on my autistic daughter that we nominated her for a Shining Star Award last school year. Why were these announcements made on the same day? Why are teachers who adore their jobs, their students, colleagues, and communities suddenly taking leaves of absence and even resigning? Rumors are swirling, and they are tearing our school apart. Parents are heartbroken and fearful for the future of Wixom Elementary. We chose this school because of the outstanding educators and support staff who have made it a special place, but now we are watching the foundation crumble. We have followed district protocols. We have voiced our concerns to teachers and administration. Many of us have written letters and made phone calls, and yet we find ourselves here tonight still without answers.
30 seconds.
So now we turn to you, the Board of Education, and Dr. Lons. We are asking for an investigation into why the culture at Wixom Elementary has taken such a drastic turn for the worse. We deserve transparency. We deserve to understand why the school we love is changing so rapidly and negatively. By the next board
Please
meeting,
wrap up.
we ask that you provide us with answers. Wixom Elementary should be a safe, nurturing environment where
Thank
children
you.
can grow and learn, not a place
Thank you.
filled with fear, sadness, and disengagement.
Thank you. Derek Hewlett.
Mr. Chairman, trustees, administrators, my name is Derek Hewlett. I have 2 children in the Wixom Elementary School. I come before you today because there's been a as all of the previous speakers have indicated, there's been a drastic change in the culture at Wixom Elementary. My 4th grade daughter is coming home telling stories of other students on the bus talking about how everything has been turned upside down. They've had multiple teachers in a classroom. They've had teachers abruptly quit. They've had, if you look at the educators here in the first 3 rows, the tears on their face should tell you that there's something wrong. I don't know what's going on. We moved into the district for the very reason to send our kids to Wixom Elementary. I'm fearful for what's going to happen next. An inquiry needs to be made. Tonight on the consent agenda, I see that there's 2 resignations from our school. I would like a diligent inquiry to find out why these resignations happened so abruptly and break it out of the consent agenda and bring it up for debate. I don't have anything else constructive to add than what the other numerous people will speak to you tonight about, but something is terribly wrong, and an inquiry needs to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I get this right. Alex Keschneider?
Hey, good evening. Alex Keschneider. I've been a resident of Wixom for 10 years. I got a daughter in 1st grade, son in the early intervention program, and then I got a 1-year-old that's going to be going into Wixom here in a couple years. So I'm going to echo everything that everybody else has said here. And look, I've been in leadership for 18 years. I got a degree in leadership and organizational change. I've overseen organizational change, and I've seen it go well, and I've seen it go on poorly. And I'm going to just kind of echo, I've seen a marked decrease in overall teacher morale. Communication from the staff at the higher echelons has been a marked decline, disorganization. I wasn't aware of some of these other complaints about children not being properly taken care of at the school. I have some concerns about basic safety protocols happening, reporting protocols, and I would say teacher anonymity of like reporting concerns. I've heard rumors, haven't witnessed myself, preferential treatment, and I don't know, it's been very, very concerning from what I've seen, and I would say, I would echo that a full investigation needs to be done. I would say comprehensive exit interviews if they're not being done, as to why these teachers are leaving. And my daughter is in the teacher, they talked about being the teacher of the year. And the fact that, my daughter has been confused, she's felt unsafe, she's felt let down in a lot of ways. And it's like, that's not the school that we're used to dealing with, all the positive things is why our kids go there. So, and I think that's all I got. Something needs to change, and I think you all know what the answer is, but we need to have some changes in that school. That's all I got.
Thank you. Lisa Sharp?
Hi, my name's Lisa Sharp. I have been a parent at Wixom Elementary for 8 years. I can look over here and see every single one of my child's teachers sitting here. My daughter's in middle school now at Sarah Banks, and my son's in 3rd grade. I'm an elementary educator myself. I work in a neighboring district. I'm a kindergarten teacher, and what I've seen this year is absolutely terrible. I have a new principal at my building myself. My daughter at Sarah Banks has a new principal, and I don't feel the way that my son feels when he comes home from school. Particularly, it's reading month. Reading month is fun. And he came home and he said, you know, I don't think our new principal is going to do what Mrs. Russell has done. It's just not the same. And that really broke my heart. That's just not something I want to hear as a teacher, not something I want to hear as a parent. And as an educator myself, I want to support these teachers. And when I look over and see their faces and see the tears on their faces, it's absolutely devastating, and it's heartbreaking as an educator. It's heartbreaking as a parent. And a lot of these people that have spoke, they had children come after me, and I was so excited to share with them how awesome Wixom Elementary was. And, you know, they've been there for a couple of years, and they don't have the same feelings that I had and that I had shared with them. And frankly, I don't after this year either. It's just not the same.
Thank you. Zoe Lutz?
Hi, my name is Zoe Lutz. I'm a second-year 5th grade teacher at Wixom Elementary School. When I first stepped into this role, I was filled with excitement and a deep commitment to making a difference. I poured my heart into this work, believing I had found a place where I could truly contribute and grow. It is disappointing, deeply disappointing, to find myself questioning the longevity of my career I loved, not because of my dedication or performance, but due to the circumstances beyond my control. To the incredible teachers who sit here next to me, who have gone behind me, who stand behind me, who've gone before me, and who remain, you are the backbone of this district and Wixom Elementary School. Your passion, talent, and unwavering commitment to your students are what make this community so special. I am honored to work alongside you, and I want you to know how proud I am of the work you do every single day. You inspire me, and it pains me to see us going through this. Please know that I stand in solidarity with you, and I will always be cheering you on. The impact you have made, the impact you have on the lives your students remains immeasurable. And no matter what challenges come our way, I know we will continue to rise above them.
Thank you. John Smith?
Hello, John Smith. I actually had a slightly different angle and kind of I think a bright spot of some of our conversation tonight. I have 2 daughters at Wixom Elementary, 5th grade and 3rd, Lily Smith, and she was just recently nominated for Star Student of the District. And also, a lot of the teachers here have been great to support my daughter both of my daughters in their education. And I wanted to petition the board. She will be attending the STEM camp in July, and the cost of that camp is $3,200. I've been doing some fundraising. We've been doing a variety of things, and Lily's learning it's not an easy road. She has to work. She's scooping dog poop. She's collecting cans. We did a GoFundMe campaign and a variety of other fundraising activities. What I would like to petition is that Lily going to Bowling Green University in July to represent the district and the school, perhaps there's an opportunity to support her in that effort. And as she continues to move forward in her education and propel herself forward, that she would be a good representative of our community and our school district. And perhaps there is an opportunity to have some funding support to help her get to that camp this summer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Gabby Tiaga.
Hello, my name is Gabi Tiaga. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I listened to last month's meeting and would like to highlight a few public comments. A woman spoke and stated that she was a retired Board of Education member. Last I heard, she wasn't retired, she just didn't get voted in. But semantics. As a valued member of this community, I think her focus during public comments would be more helpful on literally anything else than the comments from another adult on Facebook. She could possibly shift her comments to helping the district with our test scores or how to hire more paras. A gentleman got up and spoke of compassion. I quote, "Have some compassion." I would tell him this movement that is being pushed to be kind and compassionate, which is misguided. What about being kind to our girls and having compassion for them? This district no longer has the daddy-daughter dance for our girls based on the view of being more inclusive. In an effort to be more inclusive, the district has become highly exclusive. Others spoke of President Trump's new executive orders and how they affect our children. Yet I failed to hear them mention keeping boys out of girls' sports and defending girls from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Are those executive orders not as important? At the last meeting, I spoke on the fear-mongering, Nazi-ranting leftist adults. I want to make something evident to everyone. The statement from the gentleman was highly anti-Semitic. To stand at this podium and speak about a Jewish woman who also happens to be a parent in this district for questioning a book. To say to her and all of us, the Nazis started with book banning, which led to the burning of people. For this man to dare to compare Jewish parents and other parents to Nazis blows my mind. How this is allowed goes completely against everything this community should stand for. But alas, they allow it. They thank and applaud him for his words. Shayna is my friend and continues to take it in the teeth for everyone. No one comes up here and stands up for her. I know she doesn't need it, and I would think less of myself if I didn't. On February 13th, a guidance memo was sent from the State of Michigan Department of Education, Superintendent Michael Rice, to all Michigan public school superintendents and directors. He's advising them not to follow President Trump's orders and federal Title IX laws. They keep saying, I quote, "All children, no exceptions, deserve safe, welcoming schools. All have the right to be free from bullying and discrimination. To the absolute best of our ability, we as educators have the responsibility to ensure these rights for our schools." But they don't mean it, because they certainly don't care about the safety of our daughters. So I ask our superintendent, where does this district stand? Will you make a simple yes or no statement that this district will support Title IX? Will any of the board members make the same statement? Also, what is the actual point of having a Title IX coordinator if this district doesn't
15
follow
seconds,
federal
please
laws?
wrap up.
Sounds like a waste of money to me. Everyone on this board ran for their spot. You sit up here and do nothing but talk about whichever play is happening at the time. 3 people wanted to make positive changes in this district are sitting
Thank
at
you
home.
for your comments. Please
You're
wrap
supposed
up.
to represent us, and you do nothing but
That's
give us
time, ma'am.
word salads and hide
Please
behind
wrap up.
cop-outs. I was getting there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Lippett.
Ron Lippett, Commerce Township. My wife Denise and I have 3 daughters, including our youngest, who is a junior at Walled Lake Northern. Obviously, there's a lot to discuss with respect to today's news out of Lansing regarding school funding and budgets, but I'm going to withhold comment on that until we understand the impact a little more fully. Instead, I'd like to comment on news out of Denmark this week, where Danish authorities enacted legislation banning cell phones from public schools. Mind you, not limiting their usage, but removing phones entirely from school by law. This came on the heels of a long-awaited statement by the Well-Being Commission, a Danish government think tank which documented the digital threat to school-aged children. Similar legislation is now being considered in capitals across Europe, along with already enacted legislation in Canada and the UK. Here in the US, data shows a growing demand for comprehensive cell phone policy, including changes to curriculums which require the use of cell phones. Siena College in New York State, as an example, released data showing New Yorkers support an outright ban on cell phones in public schools by margins of 60 to 32%, with only 8% being indifferent. Further interesting is that the data indicates broad support across the political spectrum, with Democrats and Republicans supporting cell phone bans with equal enthusiasm. Another poll last month from Talker Research showed that 7 in 10 Americans support school cell phone bans in some form, with concerns over their impact on education being cited as the #1 factor to support a ban. 8 states in the U.S. now have enacted statewide cell phone bans. In Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer is calling for a bipartisan legislation to restrict cell phones in schools, but not ban them entirely. The MEA issued a statement indicating their support for locally driven policy, saying, quote, "Every school district is different, and each community requires local solutions that involve frontline educators and parents in the decision-making process," unquote. If Michigan is to empower local bodies, such as our school board, to make these decisions, I have no doubt our school board, this body, will create policies which protect our students and listen to our parents. There is changing sensitivity to the threat cell phones pose to Walled Lake schools and student health. The data paints a grim picture for education, so please know you have broad support. You have broad support should you choose to enact a stricter cell phone policy here in Walled Lake schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Tricia Ziegler.
Hi, I'm Tricia Ziegler from Loon Lake Elementary, and I was just coming tonight to share some positives. Sorry. We just kicked off Reading Month with a Reader's Theater. We have a door decorating scavenger hunt. Thank you, Miss Yulin. Second grade is doing a March Madness book bracket, which the students are really excited about. We had 3 interns last semester and 1 this semester from Grand Valley, and they're going to be great additions to the profession. Thank you to the grant that's offering tutoring before and after school. We have a lot of students benefiting from that. Our PTA has been doing some great assembly searches to find new things to bring. We had a Mad Science assembly that we just had, and we have a Brain Break assembly academy that's coming up, and we're excited, so thank you to the PTA. We are enjoying our new hands-on science curriculum. Thank you. We've had less IRIPs this year as we incorporate more phonics into our reading programs and making it more than just MSV. A variety show is in the works. Any students listening, they're due Monday. Get your applications in. But yeah, thank you so much and appreciate it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine Titus.
Good evening, Christine Titus from Commerce Township, a proud educator at Hickory Woods. I'd like to start by thanking you for, and I'd like to offer encouragement for, agenda item number 14, which is the board policy adoption on changing the language for what used to be the English language deficiency in the board policy manual. The multilingual learners we teach in this district need us to understand that we honor the languages they speak in addition to the opportunity of learning a new language, English. These students and adults through our evening programs are adding to the funds of knowledge they already possess, and I encourage you to adopt this new and asset-based language in the board policy manual. Thanks to Mrs. Iverson and Mrs. Kohansky for drafting the new asset-based language. I'm happy to see this hopefully come to fruition after about 18 months. I also want to give a shout out to my colleagues at Hickory Woods, especially our principal, special education, general education, and ancillary staff, who are putting in an extraordinary amount of time to make sure all of our students' needs are being met as best as they can be. I witness every day, and this is no exaggeration, how everyone is doing their best to emulate our motto, our district motto of every child, every day, even though the task is not always an easy one. So I wanted to make sure they know, and other colleagues I've worked with across the district, that their work is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Bardos.
Hello, my name is Katie Bardos. My husband and I have a daughter that's a FIU student in Miami, sophomore, and my son is a senior at Northern. I am currently at all 3 schools on a production team as a volunteer, and I love the performing arts. Recently, I just went on the Love Tour, which was amazing. It was great to see all 3 high schools working together and hanging out. During the tour, I was reminded of 3 things I wanted to remind you of. One is that I was promised that at every level for the performing arts, the teachers, that we would have a teacher for performing arts at every level. This is important because I have seen a decline of the kids in the past 5 years due to not having someone at the school to build the program. During the Love Tour, kids got to come up and sing with the high schoolers. The only middle school with a dedicated person had about 100 to 150 kids that came up. The other 3 who share a teacher did not have as many, and 1 had none. Also, number 2, I think that Matt Weber and his team need a truck. Now that they are renting U-Hauls and they have lots of, and there are lots of times we need things moved from one school to the other. And I think it would save money, and honestly, it would really help me. And I mean me by my volunteering for all 3 schools, including the middle schools. We are busting at the seams and getting more, because more space is being taken away from the performing arts, and it is harder and harder for me to find the pieces and the props, and that's my job, is to find set pieces and props. I really need that warehouse that I've been asking for about 6 years. I think it would save us a lot of money, waste, and time. It also would make money for us because we could rent out the items. And then last but not least, all children need an outlet, some other than sports. Not everybody is a sports person. And from being here since my daughter is, like I said, a sophomore, and since kindergarten, I've been watching all of, from like the talent shows to everything, and I see these kids growing, and now that I'm at all 3 schools, it just breaks my heart that I was at Central.
30 seconds.
I sat at the desk, and we only had like 4 kids come up. That is a sign that we are missing. Now you'll know which school was missing for, not having a choir there. And then also, last but not least, Western. Come see
15
Western
seconds.
At first weekend in April, and She Loves Me at Central, second weekend in April. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank everybody for speaking, and as stated, a member of the administration will get back to you where needed. I will also say that after we do board commentary, we will take a break for those of you who have other things to do this evening, so if you will bear with us for a few minutes. Dr. Lons, administrative commentary.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Durkin, we'll start with you today.
Ooh, right off the dot. Just a quick update. I want to give some kudos to my team. I have the final version of our learning newsletter, hot off the presses, hopefully getting it off to the printer tomorrow. I just want to give a special shout out to Pam Cole and Jason Lewis for all their work to track down these amazing stories going on in the classroom, celebrating our Teachers of the Year, all the wonderful things, neatly packed into 8 pages. So hopefully that'll be in your mailbox later this month.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Kowanski.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lons. Just wanted to make a quick shout out and a comment that it's been really exciting the last few weeks working with our administrative team The department in learning services and I work with them to really start to hone in on what professional development has been like this year and get a lot of feedback. We take into account our teacher feedback that everyone gives when we do those PD times, and taking a look at our district goals, strategic initiatives, those kinds of things, and just really dedicating a lot of time and effort into refining. We're always working on getting better. We're always taking everybody's feedback, but looking forward to putting those professional development plans in place for next year. And so I just want to thank the administrative teams for their hard work on that in the last couple of weeks. Thanks.
Thanks, Mrs. Kowanski. Mr. Hamka?
Thank you, Dr. Lons. Last week, we had the opportunity to welcome 50 teachers for the new teacher mentor-mentee program here. 50 teachers came after school from 4:30 to 6 to learn a little more about MTSS, school improvement, and the MyKIP goals. It was phenomenal to see everybody together learning. A recent hire shared this. Walled Lake has wonderful teachers and wonderful people. There are teachers at my door nearly every day offering help. I've never taught in a place that has this kind of support. And another teacher shared that he has a great day nearly every day. So there's a lot of positive energy and positive things going on here. I want to thank Dr. Scout and Eileen Darengowski for their support that night, as well as the administrative team. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Muir?
Thank you, Dr. Lons. Just excited to talk about one more especially wonderful week in Walled Lake Schools. We have our annual Inclusion Week that is happening March 17th through 21st at all of our schools, where our building leadership as well as staff and students and communities are promoting whole school engagement activities where they promote social inclusion for all students. Activities range from youth leadership activities, spirit weeks, book reads. There are often guest speakers that come in promoting all kinds of acceptance and appreciation for all the uniqueness of all individuals. And then our high schools have unified sporting games as well to culminate the week. So we're just excited about this year's Inclusion Week. Look forward to some of those activities and hope that others will be able to participate.
Thank you. Ms. Homer?
Last month at the board meeting, we had the opportunity to highlight the student services staff, and ironically enough, we have a new member of that staff that's being led by Patty Harthen, who has a familiar last name, though, during the interview process, and we didn't really register. It is actually Debbie Chatfield, which is our former Bill Chatfield, his sister, so it's fun to have her, and she's doing a bang-up job, so we're glad to have her on the team. The payroll team has a relatively new team, again, led by a seasoned veteran, Sherry Davis, and they're going through the process of kind of trying to refine very slowly the payroll process to make it better and easier. It's going to be a long time, again, taking it slow to go fast, but again, it's a work in progress, so we appreciate all the work in that area. The finance team, of course, Vicki Amore has always been doing a great job. She's working on grants and trying to make sure that things are done to the T, to make sure that we don't find any audit findings. I know PMR, that not our audit division, is in the audience, but they always can rely on her to do a great job as well. Certainly, we have the budget looming. That's certainly a big topic of conversation, both on a state level and a federal level. We're trying to sort through all those things and trying to make sure that we get the appropriate information, but knowing that it's a long process yet to come. So stay tuned, as I'm sure we all will be anxious to hear how things actually pan out, but certainly we're monitoring those developments. And finally, I'd like to thank the building leaders and the support staff in the buildings. We obviously couldn't do the daily business of the district without them, and sometimes they don't get the kudos that they are deserved, but we do appreciate all the work that they do to help us do our job properly in the business office.
Thank you, Mrs. Omer. From last we met, there's a couple topics that have come up at more of a national and some state level. First topic is the executive orders that have been issued. It's important to note that the executive orders that relate specifically to school districts are guiding federal agencies. They're not related directly to what school districts need to do. And so we continue to work with our attorney. They continue to see what guidance comes out from the federal agencies. Of course, we will follow that guidance, and we will continue to move forward with the guidance once it is provided. The second one is, and this is not the first time we've heard about this, but a potential government shutdown. People ask, well, if the federal government shuts down, what happens to your local school district? If it's a short-term shutdown, the short answer is pretty much nothing. It goes on business as usual. All of you know that we receive federal funds, but they lag behind real time. And so as long as it's a short-term federal shutdown, we'd not have any direct impact to how we operate on a daily basis. As I appreciate you bringing up the budget and what might happen with that at the state level, and I believe some other board members might talk about it. From my perspective, I just want to continue to advocate for our 31AA funds. That's grant funding that all school districts in Michigan get. That is a state grant, and that's directly related to safety and security. And so I continue to advocate for that and ask our officials at the state level to continue to fund that fully, not only for our district, but for all of the districts. And then right here at home, related to what we do every day, I had a chance, I think 2 weeks ago, to walk through Walled Lake Western. We call it Phase 2. So if you've been in Walled Lake Western, you know there's some temporary walls up, or if you have kids there, they'll talk about temporary walls up. I had a chance to go behind the curtain, so to speak, and see where we are. We're right on schedule to be ready to go at the end of the summer. It's amazing how it seems like nothing really happens for 8 months. And if you've been through construction in your building, the last month is just done. And so we're getting pretty close to that last month. I'm excited for a number of things that are happening there. The new school store. They also have a new ancillary or auxiliary TV studio, a new robotics lab, and we actually created an area for esports. And so we're keeping up with the times to the best of our ability. So I appreciate everyone working on that project. And finally, on a personal note, I had a chance last week or the week before to go down to LCA. And I got really good seats because it was for our unified teams. And it wasn't just our unified teams. There were, I believe, 8 total unified teams from the Tri-County area were playing. It started at 11 and went until about 3 o'clock. And so I had a chance to see Walled Lake Central and Walled Lake Western play. They didn't play each other. They played others. And we were very successful. And it's amazing to be able to sit there and see that all of our students in our district have an opportunity to experience things that everyone would like to see their child experience. As someone who, I'm lucky enough to have 5 children and they were all involved in sports or band, it was great to see that. On a personal note, my wife joined me and she was actually tapped to run the clock for the Walled Lake Western game, so she gets to say she got to run the Pistons clock. So that was pretty cool. So we had a great month in between board meetings, and I'm looking forward to updating everyone in April. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Board commentary. Ms. Fernandez, would you like to start?
Sure. I thought I was just simply going to say how much I enjoy Walled Lake Northern's Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. They were truly awesome, and I had a chance to go with my son. Both of my sons were extremely involved in the programs at Northern, and so they just love seeing people, even though they're pretty much aged out. However, I also then found some inspiration to make a comment about some of the procedural activities that we'll have before us, and in particular the consent agenda, which is a consent agenda because there's generally consent, and so there's no discussion that happens at the point of the consent agenda. I would like to know if it's possible whether we're able to amend a motion and amend the motion in the consent agenda to potentially pull out and look separately at resignations. And I think that because when we've heard feedback ahead of getting to the board meeting, any board member can question and ask for an item to be removed. So procedurally, I'm just not certain if we can ask for it here at the table, hearing it just at the point of time. But if I'm able to, and somebody gives me the head nod, I will plan to do that. Now, just because we pull something out of the consent agenda for discussion means we can talk about it. It still is subject to a vote, which of course requires a majority. And that can be a sense of frustration as well, because you can pull things out that maybe should be talked about. It's happened before on numerous occasions for approving minutes or hires. And so we can make that happen, and then we still are subject to the majority vote of the board, and we serve as a single body. So if we're able, that will happen. And my third comment is just, it's important, I think, for all of us, the Lansing cuts and what's happening in Lansing. And I would say, you know, in today's environment, there are continuous threats of more cuts or drastic types of changes going back and forth versus advice and guidance from folks that are cited as authorities on whether or not to ignore or not ignore that. I particularly prefer to be a little bit conservative about that and make sure that we're not doing anything ruthless by ignoring advice or threats that seem to be resulting in action in today's environment. But our guidance wholly depends on who the attorney is and who the official authority is that's providing those things. So, you know, I'm sure those are things that we'll get to wrestle with here in the coming months. But that's just my point of view on some of the challenges of actually making things happen when we act as a single body and getting a chance to talk about those things. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. West?
Thank you, Mr. Siegler. So I'm going to start off. I get to have an opportunity to chaperone Wall Lake Northern's band trip to Disney this past February over break, and it was amazing. Our kids are amazing. We had so many compliments, whether it was from flight attendants or other people, just passengers on the plane. I was on a flight that had a 6-hour layover. We are much delayed, and it was a challenge. You saw kids sleeping all over the floors in the airport. But these kids were absolutely phenomenal. They played phenomenal down Main Street in Disney. And I'm just so glad that I had an opportunity to just be there, be some of these kids' moms. You know, like they're away from their parents. It's really hard to be away from your mom and be with kids. There's bickering that can go on, and it's hard to be with other people that aren't your own family for that long. And so to just kind of like help guide them is just, it was an honor to do that. But what I was really kind of wanted to talk about tonight was I've emailed Dr. Lons a couple times about some concerns regarding staffing issues that we've had this year, things that I've noticed with vacancy positions that are coming up. And Mrs. Fernandez just touched on the consent agenda and the resignations, and I also would like to have that pulled to discuss. I'm concerned that we have so many staff members leaving during the middle of the school year. As an educator myself, you know, just growing up, I remember never seeing teachers leave in the middle of a school year. As an educator, I can't imagine leaving my students in the middle of a school year. Those kids become your kids, and you love them, and I want to, you know, we're passionate about them. So I want to see what we can do to not only retain our staff, but we also need to go ahead and see what we can do to reach out to potential educators out there, whether it be our teachers, our parapros. We need to go ahead and really figure out how we can fill these positions and keep them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Levin?
Thank you, Mr. Siegler. So I wanted to start my comments today with a quote. "Silence in the face of evil is evil itself. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." Dietrich Bonhoeffer. My comments tonight were going to take a different form than they've ended up. But I'm very concerned about silence in our district. There's silence about issues happening with staff. Not you guys, you're separate. There's silence about concerns with staff and our special needs programs, and staff being cross-trained to take on even more responsibilities when their plates are already full. Paras who we are already lacking 45 at the last count that I saw, being cross-trained and being asked to take on more responsibilities, and nobody's talking about it. Our teachers being told that they can't speak tonight by the union. Last I checked, this was still America, and it is nobody's right to tell anybody they can't speak, to scare anybody into saying they can't speak. These are private citizens. As one of our community members liked to remind me just a couple weeks ago, you have the right to speak up, and I'm proud of you for being here and doing that. one of the lessons that I've learned, 4 years ago today, I was on the steps of the Capitol in Lansing, speaking up to save our kids and to save our schools. A lot of people like to think that I don't support our kids, I don't support our schools. It couldn't be farther from the truth. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't. I have better things I could be doing than volunteering for this thankless job. But I'm here to advocate for everybody. And that started 4 years ago in Lansing, and it's not going to stop. And I've learned that sometimes you have to go it alone, and that nobody's coming to save you. You have to speak up, you have to save yourself. And I have repeatedly asked this board to take on tough conversations, to have workshops just to talk. We don't talk about anything. A lot of people say, when will the board discuss it? We won't, because our board doesn't like to take on tough topics. We vote on things that are brought to us. We discuss the couple things that are brought to us, but we really need to take on the tough things. And I've said on my social media, and I've said publicly, and I'll say it again, silence is not the answer. And so I am requesting publicly that this board convene a closed session meeting to discuss the problems that have been brought forward to us and to stop being silent about it. There are things that we can't talk about publicly. I'm sure you understand that. But there are things we must talk about privately. And I've been told, well, that's not something for the board to worry about. Everything is for the board to worry about. Everything matters, and if we wait until it's something that somebody decides is for the board to worry about, it may be too late. One of the benefits of having a board of education is that we all come from diverse backgrounds. We're not all educators. We all have our own unique, not only life, but professional experiences that if we were asked, we may be able to lend some of that expertise to the board, but we're not asked. And I mean no disrespect when I say this, but we have professionals on this board that can help the people on our board or in our administration who have not worked in these specific roles in corporate America. We have educators who have been certified and learned and worked in these roles, but we have people with professional experience around us. We have a community that knows how to handle things. We need to lean on each other, and we need to stop being divisive. There are many people who are sitting up here on this board who ran campaigns based on moving forward together, and I think we've forgotten that together piece, and we really need to get back to that. And I don't like that I'm usually the only one who's asking to have these meetings, and I hope that everybody, regardless of what position you're coming from, will join me in wanting to have these conversations and to do the work that our community elected us to do, and to really start to think about why we're sitting here. It's not for the paycheck.
Thank you. Smith?
Oh, I wasn't done, but okay. Thank you all for your time. I'm done now.
Do you want to speak more?
Nope, I'm good. You can have it because I'm working together.
Appreciate that. First, I want to, as it was discussed at our organizational meeting, to have a brief synopsis of what some of the work that we do in our subcommittees. And Ms. Kaplan, myself, Dr. Lons, and Ms. Beyer were there. Ms. Fernandez was absent. About the board policy subcommittee, we reviewed and discussed the following, which I think was stated that will be on the agenda for Board Policy 8002 for the ADA, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which discusses the limited English proficiency. We also did review and discuss, and I was caught up to speed on the board operating procedures. Ms. Kaplan provided an update to me to bring me up to speed on some of the discussions that have already taken place and what we want to do to move forward. And we are going to be providing some input on that for board policy 1001 and seeing where we need to go for that in the future. And we are going to reconvene for our next meeting April 10th. Hopefully you can attend that one at 5:15 so we can all be there and have a wonderful discussion. I had some basic notes. I do want to start off as well as thank you to the Wixom community, staff, all of the community and the parents coming out. And I understand how hard it is to speak up, and I do appreciate that as a fellow parent and board member. I do believe and think that there does need to be more thought, discussions on many matters moving now and moving forward. So again, I thank you. Some of the other items that I want, I want to acknowledge the shared sadness in not only the Dublin community, where I'm a part of, but also the entire district at the passing of one of our beloved teachers, Mrs. Jenny Ashley. She battled pancreatic cancer for 3 years and was a champion of those recently diagnosed. She shared her wisdom and experience so that others could find hope for a future, and she will be greatly missed by all of our students, families, and staff in our school. I want to give a shout out to our wonderful third graders at Dublin on their successful travel fair that transformed the school for a day. Also to our fun staff volleyball game at Walled Lake Northern between the 4 elementary schools. As was discussed tonight, remember, March is National Reading Month. Remember to track those reading minutes and engage in thoughtful discussions about the books that you're reading. I challenge everyone, I am an avid reader myself, read something new, read with your child, open yourself to a new style, new genre, or journey, and expand your horizons with all the amazing authors that are out there. Thank you to the CHS and for the whole district at large for holding Inclusion Week coming up from March 17th through the 21st. It really stuck to me that it says inclusion is important, and it means and shows everyone that all children, no matter their racial, religion, ethnic background, gender, learning style, or ability, have equal access to educational opportunities in a learning environment where all students are equally safe, valued, and respected. So I know my daughter at CHS is looking forward to that and really showing how inclusive we are as a district. I also want to congratulate and appreciate CHS for their annual Super Bowl to benefit the Hospitality House Food Pantry. The students and staff collected 2,391 pounds of food, as well as over $1,500 in cash donations during the week-long event. I want to say, of course, have a safe and happy St. Patrick's Day. I know that there's going to be wonderful events at Dublin because our new principal is of Irish background, and she is going to be teaching our kids. So I'm looking forward to some of their dancing that I believe that they're going to do. So that's wonderful. So just remember again, and then have a relaxing spring break at the end of the month. Remember to recharge and have fun. And also I want to honor and acknowledge that the fact is March is also Women's History Month. And to all of the amazing women in our community, I'm reminded of this great quote by Rosa Parks. You must never be fearful about what you are doing when it is right. So charge forth and be the beacon that shines light on what is right in the world. So finally, I want to wish my son an early happy birthday tomorrow. I don't know if he's watching, but happy 11th birthday, Andrew. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Grafton.
Thank you, Mr. Siegler. I was absent in the February meeting because I had a family emergency. I would have reported this then, but I couldn't. So in late January, I attended the Oakland County School Board Association training on a framework called the Key Works of School Boards. And it really talks about the team of 8, the 7 of us elected, and the superintendent working together, rooted in trust, and that the key duty of a school board member is to find the powerful question. So what is the question that needs to be asked at any moment to get the district to turn in whatever topic that we're confronting? So in strategic planning, an example of a powerful question might be, what does our demographics look like for jobs 20 years from now? And then let's backward map to what do we need to be preparing our kids for now so that they're ready to be employed in our community in 20 years. So that's an example of a powerful question. And I'm very, very interested in having discussions with the board in public session, private, closed session, whatever, about how we can implement some of the structures that the Key Works of School Boards training employs. I think we are hearing a lot of things in the community right now that are very, very important. And I agree, Shana, Mrs. Levin, sorry, that we do need to have meaningful community engagement and discussion as a group. How we do that, I am very open to what the right protocols are. I've only been an elected member of the board for a short period of time, and let's figure it out. But we got to do it. The community deserves it, and the 8 people around this table deserve it. This is an unprecedented moment of challenge in education, coming at us from all angles, and we can't allow our community to be divided. I'm going to change topics now. That was my thought of response to today and Ms. Levin's comments. I also had the beautiful privilege of chaperoning the Walled Lake Western Choir field trip to New York City. It was amazing to see young people learn how to navigate, with adult supervision, of course, the subway, how to walk with purpose across the street, to see their eyes just light up when they saw a Broadway curtain go up. Some of us got to be second row for a Broadway show. I mean, these kids are truly the future, and I'm so honored to get to spend time with them in an authentic and meaningful way. So for all of you, my commitment is to the children of this district and the teachers that support their learning and growth so that they can be prepared, productive citizens for tomorrow. Our future relies on them, and it's our job to figure that out. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I want to thank both of you, everybody that's been involved with chaperoning, because I go back many years to Maple Elementary as a chaperone for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders on young astronauts. And there's nothing greater than having a child sitting next to you who, A, has never been away from mom or dad for a night and has never flown on a plane. If you think that you have challenges, you have no idea. For my colleagues at the board, we have some upcoming reminders. The March 19th and April 16th, there are classes being offered virtually. Please let Mrs. Barron know if you are interested in going. The OCSBA dinner meeting, which is on April 2nd, is at the OTC campus in Clarkston. It's a wonderful opportunity to see what our children and our students can do, and from a manufacturing, production, and catering situation, we actually have students who will be cooking the meals, catering, and learning table service, as well as interpersonal skills at the dinner. We've already discussed March's Reading Month. I look forward to that. PTSA Reflections, March 31st, 2025 at Walled Lake Northern. I've been really involved over the last few weeks with things going on in Lansing and trying to get a grasp of what's going on. Mrs. Levin, you'll be happy to know that I believe the vapes bill will be reintroduced, and we can finally take some action on that. As we talk about phones and smart device policies, one of the things that was brought up in one of our discussions last night was a reminder that we really don't want to ban, because most children and most schools do not have a payphone. And even if they had a payphone, the students would not know what to do with them. So it's a teaching opportunity. So we want to look at that. Dr. Lon's already touched on 31AA. It's going to be challenges with the budget as we move forward and see what happens there. For people who have no knowledge of the school budget or what we have to do, our budget is due to the state by June 30th. The state doesn't approve a budget prior to September 30th. So a lot of opportunities, and there probably will be some major changes as we move forward on that. Dr. Lon started this morning, and he didn't say anything about it, but the pictures speak for themselves, serving breakfast to our students. I think the white apron would have been better, but thank you for doing that. Today, House Bill 4162 was presented. Now, again, this will have a lot of feedback and a lot of action over the next several weeks. I've only gotten through about 10 of the 49 pages from the bill, but one of the things that people need to understand is what it proposed was a $5 billion cut to the school aid budget, the way we see it, from 20 million down to 15 billion. The cause and effect of that to districts, ours and others through the state, would be devastating. To our PTA parents that are here and PTA council members that are here, we are not waving a flag yet, but we may need you very soon for phone calls and letter writing campaigns. Between the start of the day, the presentation and the vote there was only 30 minutes from the introduction or the reintroduction today and the vote that was taken in the House. So we will probably need to react very rapidly on all of it. Lastly, again, thank you to everybody who spoke tonight. I can't thank you enough for letting us know and for communicating with us. And with that, we will take a 10-minute recess for those of you who don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. Mrs. West, if I could have you back at the table. Thank you. We will reconvene. Mrs. Fernandez? You want to make a motion?
Yeah, start with the first motion.
Consent agenda, approval of minutes, proposed February 6, 2025 regular meeting, personnel recommendations, new hires, resignations, financial reports, disbursements in the amount of $18,779,990, balance sheet and statement of revenues and expenditures unaudited and investment schedule, and the Head Start Director's report. Do I have?
Mr. Siegler,
Mrs. Crafton.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do you have a second?
Do we have support? Yeah, somebody needs. Thank you, Mrs. Levin.
Mr. Vice President, Secretary for the day. I don't know what to call you.
Yes, Mrs. Fernandez.
I'd like to suggest an amendment to that motion.
Okay.
I move that the Board of Education remove item B2, resignations, and approve the remainder of the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Levin. We have an amendment and a support for that. All those in favor?
I don't think, we can't discuss
Well,
the consent.
no, we cannot
So we
discuss
have
the
to
consent
just-
agenda.
Because she said to approve the consent, we have to approve it as is.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The friendly amendment passes 6-0.
I have another, I would like to now make a motion to address the resignation bit that we just booted out of there. I'd like to move that the resignations be approved as presented with the stipulation that the Wixom Elementary resignations be investigated by the administration and reported back to the board.
Thank you, Mrs. Levin. Moved by Mrs. Fernandez, supported by Mrs. Levin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Now to go back to the original motion.
No, we already.
No,
passed
we don't have to. We're all set. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. We made it through that.
That was well done.
Appointment. Appointment. Move management services for the 2024 bond program. Dr. Lons.
Thank you, sir. Upon successful negotiations, the administration recommends to hire and appoint Plant Moran Real Point to coordinate move management services related for the repurposing of Geisler Middle School in the amount not to exceed $65,000, and that amount will come from the 2024 bond program.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Siegler.
Mrs. West. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Fernandez. Mrs. Fernandez, please.
So far, this is going well.
We do need to talk more, right? I move that upon successful negotiations, the Board of Education hire and appoint Plant Moran Real Point to coordinate move management services related to the repurposing of Geisler Middle School in an amount not to exceed $65,000 for the 2024 bond program.
So, thank you, Mr. Smith. Discussion.
Mr. Siegler,
Mrs. Levin.
I have a question. You're here anyway. Might as well have you do something this time. Are we paying for the move or for Plant Moran to coordinate it? Like,
Sure.
to find somebody to do it?
So there's two parts to that.
I was going to let him do it.
I know.
Go ahead. Dr. Lons.
Because it's actually a subsidiary of Plant Moran, but to answer your question directly, this is for them to coordinate the white glove service of the move. So we will then hire movers on top of it. It's very similar to what we're doing right now at Walled Lake Northern, where AUK is coordinating the move, but we hire another moving company to actually do the actual moving of the products.
So could you maybe explain what's involved in $65,000 worth of coordinating a move?
Sure. We'll, one of our groups not directly affiliated with
Ms. Pitt and myself will do all the coordination up front, have all the meetings with the teachers, make sure that all the move lists are generated, all the walkthroughs, and all the called inventory prior to moves are done. Everything is coordinated top down. All the RFPs are issued for the move services. Once the move happens, we're boots on the ground, making sure that that's happening over the summer. And then once the moves are completed and the teachers are moved in and the administration's moved in, we're making sure that everything's done correctly, everything's inventoried, everything's back into where it needs to go. It's really just a turnkey approach to manage that service.
Thank you.
Mrs. Levin, could I follow up with you on that?
You sure can.
The reason why I'm recommending Plant Moran handle this move versus the Walled Lake Northern move is the complexity of this move. We're taking one middle school, we'll be moving furniture to 2 other middle schools plus 2 other high schools. And I want to make sure that our staff have the best possible transition. Where Walled Lake Northern, we're moving out of Classroom A, pretty much moving it back into Classroom A. It's a much simpler process.
Mr. Siegler?
Mrs. Fernandez.
I have a follow-up question. In the motion, we said to coordinate the move management services. Will you indeed put that out to bid, and is an RFP involved in order to select, the right vendor at the right price, or is it already known and it's mostly coordinating something that is already predetermined?
No, our group will develop a comprehensive RFP for the actual moving services. Probably go out to at least 3 to 5 different firms. And then obviously, once we receive bids, we'll recommend the lowest qualified firm to conduct that move. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Purchases over $50,000. Dr. Lons.
Mrs. Kowansky.
Thank you, Dr. Lons. As presented to the board last month, we have a textbook recommendation for world language, which covers our Spanish, French, and German classes at the middle school and high school level. At this time, our recommendation, which was presented last month, is for Entrée Culturas for Spanish and French, Interculturel for German, with Wayside Publishing 2024 edition. $468,553.05 from the general fund.
Do I have a motion?
I'll try. Mr. Siegler.
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Education approve the purchase of world language textbooks entitled Interculturels for Spanish and French and Interculturel for Deutsch. German, Wayside Publishing, 2024, in the amount of $468,553.05 from the general fund.
Support.
Thank you, Mrs. Crafton. Moved by Mr. Smith, supported by Mrs. Crafton. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Siegler.
Mrs. Levin.
I'm going to be voting no on this curriculum and every curriculum going forward until there's a change made in how we review curriculum. And this just came up this week, but I was part of the board that approved a math curriculum this past year that uses pronouns that don't exist, and I don't support it, but I approved it. Even after I reviewed the curriculum, I thought that I was doing a good thing and looking at everything, but I missed a letter. And I missed it because I trusted that our process had improved. It's something I had brought up maybe a year and a half ago, that we needed to improve our curriculum review process. I didn't want to support publishers who supported things that I didn't believe in. And I went back on what I had said I was going to do, and I approved this curriculum. And now that I think nothing's changed with the publishers that we are giving our $468,000 to over and over and over again, and how we approach them, the only thing I can do is vote no. In case something pops up later, I need to distance myself from it. So I'm hoping that how our curriculum is reviewed will change, and the publishers that we use will be held to higher standards, so that I don't have to be thinking about what letter is used in certain words, which I know doesn't even happen in foreign languages, but this is just the first one on the list. So I just wanted everybody to know why I'm going to be voting no on this and any curriculum going forward until I know that things have changed.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor? I'm sorry, Mrs. West.
I just want to share that I also saw the math curriculum that I was shocked to see a pronoun used that I also don't share the belief. I believe that there's are two genders. And I believe that there's plenty of families that also support that. I understand there's families who do not, but I believe that that's something up to each family to decide, and we should not be pushing that onto our families to determine how they want to view gender philosophy. And so, obviously we're looking at languages, and we're not going to be able to see if there's something that is off if it's in a language. So I also won't be able to support that today.
Mrs. Fernandez.
So this one breaks my heart, and it's because I did review the books. I'm not qualified to review German, but I reviewed the books before our last meeting, and I think it's impossible to look closely at everything, but I did feel like I was able to take a good look at the books. And maybe it's because they're foreign language books, but I didn't have any immediate objections to those books. I am concerned and have had issues with books in the past, and the process and different things that we've done, which has been enough for me to vote no. In all cases, now and going forward, I have concerns about the potential for risking lost funding in our district because we've approved and bought books that will be used for a very long time, or needing to discontinue prematurely books and pay again to have new books. So I feel like it's a serious concern, and it is one that has come up again and again in the past. In this case, I did review the books, and I am one of the folks that I feel is qualified to review them. I wish I could review them a lot more in detail, and I also have fears that things come up that you can't review and everything, but I am going to approve, or I am going to vote in favor of the books tonight. Just hope that this board hears the concerns that are real and need to be taken seriously beyond knowing whether there's a majority or a minority vote, and actually, taking some action around making sure that there's a better comfort level if for whatever reason we're concerned about the books that we're spending good money on. Generally, we want new books, we want new materials, but we also don't want to take on additional risks that will cause us financial loss because of drastically changing climate or, whatever. It has happened over and over again. So I recognize the importance of that, given the fact that we're one man down today, and I hope that our dynamics, don't have to continue to be ignoring or not taking seriously when there's a clear majority vote, but taking very seriously the fact that these concerns are on behalf of the community and the kids as much as any other perspective about voting in favor or against something.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-2. Thank you very much. Bid awards over $50,000. Continue, Dr. Lons.
Thank you very much. Walled Lake Consolidated School District solicited and received bids for procurement of district-wide network upgrades funded through bond proceeds and matching E-rate grant. The bid process was facilitated through mutual efforts of the administration, PMR, Ott Construction. The recommendation from the team is to award the bid to Intercomp TSG, the lowest responsive bidder, in the amount totaling $503,822 and the important 91 cents. Just as a point of reference, this is actually a split, so half of the money is grant provided, half of the money is matching funds. So the direct cost to the bond is about $250,000. So we're getting double the amount for half the price.
Thank you.
Mr. Siegler?
Mrs. West.
You can do it.
I move that the Board of Education approve the bid award for Intercomp TSG to provide district-wide network upgrades for a total amount of $503,822.91 funded from bond proceeds and matching E-rate grant as recommended by the project team.
Support.
Thank you, Mrs. Levin. Supported by Mrs. West, or moved by Mrs. West, supported by Mrs. Levin. Is there any discussion? Mr. Smith.
I apologize. I maybe it was in the memo. What was the lifetime of the old system that we had, like in order to necessitate this new network?
So the old system we have is actually a mixed bag, so to speak. So we have some that are coming offline. They're 8, 10 years old. We have others that have been purchased a year ago that would be obviously a year old. So we're looking at two things. One, useful life, and the second is as we continue to add devices to our buildings, we need to continue to expand the coverage for the buildings. And so we have some dead spots, so we hope we can fill in with this. Well, it won't solve the cell phone problem, but maybe that won't be a problem in a little while anyway, so.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes 6-0. Dr. Lons?
Thank you very much, sir. Walled Lake Northern and Walled Lake Western are getting some new furniture. So Walled Lake Consolidated School District has solicited and received bids for the 2019 Bond Program Furniture Package Phase 6. The bid process was facilitated through mutual efforts of our administration, TMP, PMR. The bid package is being presented under budget and cost savings measured included in repurposing of non-stationary office furniture that will be acquired from Geisler Middle School. The scope of this package is inclusive to Walled Lake Northern High School, Walled Lake Western Phase 2. The recommendation of the team is to enter into standard form of agreement with multiple vendors as presented by the team in the amount of $2,526,814.39. So just a couple things to point out here that we've already talked about. Phase 2 is the part that I had a chance to visit, and that'll be opened and ready to go when school starts for next school year. And I want to comment and give credit to the TMP team who took time to go through the Geisler furniture and to look at specifically for what we're referencing here, the northern furniture when it comes to the office furniture, and what can we switch out and not have to repurchase. And that was a commitment that we made at the very beginning of our facility study and was reaffirmed when we decided to repurpose Geisler, that we would be taking that furniture and using it, not disposing of it. And so I appreciate the team and the cost savings that came with this bid pack.
Oh, go ahead. You can read all the big ones.
Mrs. West?
I just want to respond to Dr. Lyons. And
Oh, hold on.
Hold on.
You got to wait for discussion.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Mrs. Levin?
My apologies.
You're all right.
Rookie. I move that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to enter into a standard form of agreement with multiple vendors as presented by the project team to provide Walled Lake Northern High School and Walled Lake Western High School Phase 2 furnishings in an amount totaling $2,526,814.39, funded by bond proceeds.
Support.
Thank you. Moved by Mrs. Levin, supported by Mrs. Crafton. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
So I just want to say that to Dr. Lyons, thank you for looking at repurposing and reusing the furniture and not just disposing of it. I think, it's a good use of funds, and try to allocate what we can to our schools within the district. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Question.
Mrs. Levin?
Just a technicality, because I don't want it to come back to us later. Does it matter that it says multiple vendors and that we're not awarding it to a specific person or a bid pack? I don't know.
Well, so it is a bid package, and most of our bid packages have multiple vendors in it.
Right, the motion just doesn't say bid pack, any number or anything.
As long as there's multiple vendors, we're fine.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes 6-0. Dr. Lons?
Thank you again, sir. Walled Lake Consolidated School District and PMR request Foresight Design to provide design proposals for Walled Lake Northern baseball and softball varsity field improvements, including new turf, drainage system, fencing, backstops. Foresight has historically designed our district's athletic improvements. The recommendation of the team is to enter into a standard form of agreement with Foresight and assist with bid design, construction documents, and construction administration, totaling in the amount of $54,000. So this is the first step of the process. Now, typically, we would work with TMP and AUK on this, but as you recall, when we went into the agreement with our owner's rep, PMR, we were looking for opportunities to do what was called design prime. And so this is kind of a half design prime. PMR is taking half of it, and we're still using AUK for the actual construction part of it. And so that is saving the district money, and PMR continuing to follow through on what they promised the district. This was a goal, if we recall, of the board previous to me becoming superintendent, was to upgrade our facilities. And one of the facilities we've looked at is our softball and varsity diamonds. It's happening at Walled Lake Northern this year, and next year it'll be, I think we're going Central next year, and the year after that will be Western. So we'll have equity amongst our athletic programs. It just takes time to do it because it's coming out of sinking fund, and we want to make sure that we maintain that fund for other projects that may come up along the school year.
Mrs. Fernandez.
I move that the Board of Education approve the superintendent to enter into a standard form of agreement with Foresight Design to provide athletic design services for the Walled Lake Northern High School baseball and softball field improvements totaling $54,000 from the sinking fund as presented by the project team.
Support. Moved by Mrs. Fernandez, supported by Mrs. Levin. Is there any further discussion? Mrs. Levin?
So I just want to say thank you to the administrative team for finally making this a reality. I very vividly remember when Owen Ricks and his baseball teammates stood there and asked the district to undertake this. And it took a lot of discussions about where is this going to come from, how's it going to happen, what's it look like, and when. And I remember telling Owen, my goal is for this to be done before you graduate. And if everything goes as planned, that's exactly what's going to happen. And so I think the baseball meeting at Northern is tonight. I don't know if they know that this is on the agenda, but just thank you to everybody who made this happen. Those kids deserve it, both the boys and the girls on the softball team. They bust their tails, and they work really hard. Our softball team does very, very well, and I think they deserve the same kind of excellent facilities that we give to our football teams and to any other facility that we put money into. So thank you for recognizing that and for taking the steps needed to make this happen.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. Siegler?
Mrs. Fernandez?
I'm Crafton.
Crafton. Wait, that's the second one tonight, okay.
So I just wanted to thank Dr. Lons for providing an answer to a question I didn't ask yet. I would have asked the question of equity across the 3 schools, so I appreciate hearing that there's a timeline for Central and then Western to have these upgrades as well. So thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Bond Resolution 2025, School Building and Site Bonds. Dr. Lons.
Very happy to finally turn something over. Mrs. Omer.
Happy to take it. Thank you. The bond resolution authorizes the school district's administration to proceed with the issuance of the second series of the $250 million of bonds approved by the voters at the May 7th, 2024 election. As planned, the amount of the second series of bonds to be issued will be an amount not to exceed $50,020,000. The resolution sets forth the terms of the bond and authorizes all of the actions required by law in order to issue the bonds. The resolution delegates to the superintendent or the assistant superintendent of business services the authority to negotiate and accept an offer to purchase the bonds from the underwriter. The president and secretary are authorized to sign the bonds, and the superintendent and assistant superintendent of business services are authorized to sign all other closing documents. It is anticipated that the closing of the bonds will occur in May of 2025. As you recall, we did the same type of process last June, and it's a similar type of authorization in the same amount.
I move that the Board of Education approve the adoption of the bond resolution for the 2025 school building and site bonds as presented.
Mr. Smith, supported by Mrs. West. Discussion? I just have a question. With the sale of bonds and the fluctuation of the interest rates, does that have any bearing on these at this point?
This allows us some flexibility with our team to be able to kind of check the market. Obviously, it's always a little bit difficult, but they'll certainly be looking for the most favorable market conditions going forward. So it may change that timing a little bit, but certainly they're aware of that and experts in the field to know the best time to do the best that they can.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mrs. Fernandez.
Yeah, I'm wondering, as we approve spending from prior year's bonds, usually there's mention of which series or how it is tagged to the bond funds of those prior years. Has the bond committee identified, what the subset of items is under each of these specific or under this specific series?
Yes, during that process in the pre-qualification application, there was some generic, obviously, everything that was improved in the pre-qualification application was tied to a different series in the timing. Again, that's monitored through the owner's rep, through the construction manager, so they kind of take a look at those things and update us as we go on the cash flow needs based on those particular series.
Mrs. Fernandez, I can answer that more specifically. The previous bond issuance and this bond issuance, much of that money will go for the repurposing of Geisler and for the construction development of Wixom.
Okay. What I'm curious about is, I believe that when we were voting for the bonds, after obviously the community voted, there was some conversation about specifically the bond committee stepping up to be involved in fleshing out some of the details of that, more than what was available at the time that we had to submit that as part of the bond submittal itself. And so there's probably maybe a place to be directed to see with what more finality and detail we've had that, but I'm hoping, and I know we have some new subcommittee updates, but they're before the vote, so so I feel like I feel like it would be great to really be able to keep up with that. That was our intent when we asked to establish the bond committee, and so as somebody who's not on that committee,
So I'll let
make
Mrs.
sure I'm
Levin speak
tracking
to that
along.
when it's the time for that. But you will, I would recommend they look at last bulletin, in that we had the presentation attached to it from PMR, and that may answer some of the questions there.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Resolution Board Review of Head Start Program. Dr. Lons.
Mrs. Kowalski.
Thank you, Dr. Lons. In accordance with the federal Head Start performance standards, the Walled Lake Consolidated School District Board of Education is the governing body of the district's Head Start program. It's to comply with all federal contract regulations. Walled Lake Schools Head Start is requesting the board review the items listed below for the 2024-2025 school year. All items were approved by the Head Start Policy Committee. The school board's request for review, which was attached for the board packet, was the selection and relates to Head Start Performance Standards 1302.14, enrollment as it relates to the Head Start Performance Standards of 1302.15, recruitment policy, and reimbursement policy. Thank you.
And there is no motion on that?
No motion.
Correct. Okay. Board Subcommittee updates. Mr. Smith, would you like to start?
Yeah, I can reiterate. So we met on February 24th, and we discussed, reviewed the policy, Board Policy 8002, Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. The committee discussed Board Policy 8002 and agreed to recommend the addition of language relating to service animals. The first reading will be presented tonight. And the committee was also in agreement with to recommend accompanying administrative regulations 8002A/B-AR. And then also we discussed Board Policy 3009, which was the limited English proficiency. And the committee discussed replacing current antiquated language with the proposed language. The committee agreed with the proposed language recommendations, and the first reading will be presented tonight. And then we also discussed board operating procedures and getting caught up to speed on that. And we're going to discuss next steps and requested some of the documentation so we can have our next meeting on April 10th at 5:15 at CHS. That is all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Smith? Mrs. Levin, Bond Subcommittee report.
Thank you. I think it was February 25th we met virtually. All three of us on the committee, myself, Mrs. Crafton, and Mr. Siegler were there, along with Dr. Lons and the team from PMR, who disappeared. Good job. You know, these meetings are good to kind of give us an overview of everything that's going on. There's very detailed timelines in the attachment that was shared with the board, which I think is a piece of transparency that, you know, is so very much desired by our community. So it is available, and I'm assuming at some point the public will see some of this stuff soon. There will be a website. We talked about updates of the current bond programs, things that are being wrapped up at Western, thought processes that are going into the new ESC. we talked about basically everything we talked about tonight that we voted on. But it's just a good update. One of the things that I'm enjoying learning more about and seeing what they pull out of the meetings is the design prime stuff, the stuff that they are, that Plant Moran PMR is taking on themselves. It'd be interesting to have like a running total of like, what did that save us? Because that's a big number and that's probably cool. But it's always good to get these updates, and the committee is committed to the transparency that the community wants. So specifically with like moving the adult transitions program, like when might that actually happen? And that the fact that the ATP program is being asked about what timeline works for them. Like there might be a timeline that the district is on, but does that work with, especially with these kids and this change, what does that look like? What works better for them? To really be engaging the very people that are going to be affected by this, I think is an important step that I think the community was very vocal about during the facilities committee meetings and stuff like that. So, they're pretty good meetings, and looking forward to the next one. Happy to answer questions that I can. I've got the presentation pulled up if that helps.
Ms. Levin, we do have 2 websites right now, and we have more than that, obviously, but we do have a bond website, and we do have a sinking fund website.
Are they updated?
They're not reflected of what we talked about, because I want to make sure we had a conversation here first. Okay. But Mr. Durkin and his team should have that done shortly.
Awesome.
Ms. Fernandez.
Go ahead. Good luck.
Sorry. Am I remembering falsely? I thought that PMR had a tool or something that was part of this that might actually, you would think it would total the savings and stuff, right? So we would hope to have that at some point in time through their tool?
When we sat in one of these meetings, I remember saying, for the 2019 bond, like there was a really long, like bigger than a legal piece of paper that it was like a project management, like color-coded. This is going to overlap this and this in phase 1 and phase 2. It's all going to be digital. And I think that's what Dr. Lanz is talking about, getting rolled out so that every school can know when are things happening. Like with the last bond, I think every school community eventually knew, like, okay, we're going to be part of phase whatever. Like Northern is the last phase of 2019. Always knew that going into it because they were phase 6 or whatever it was. So it's a cool tool, and we've really pushed for that transparency.
And the nice thing about the tool is it will actually state the years instead of the year 4, year 5, year 6. It'll specifically state the years that we hope these projects will be achieved. Awesome. And a list by school building what is on the lists.
Great, thank you. I didn't dream the tool. It's there.
It's there. I apologize for any mistakes I've made this evening, and we are going to adjourn at 8:57. Thank you, everyone.